Dear students and my teacher friends, Namaskar. I welcome you to the presentation lecture on structure of tooth. Now the first point that where exactly our teeth are located. So as you can see on the screen over here, this one is the mandible and this one is the maxilla. Now the bony part of mandible and maxilla is known as the alveolar bone. So let's say this part is the alveolar bone. Similarly over here this is the alveolar bone. So in the socket of the alveolar process our teeth are present. Teeth are also known as dents. The other name for the teeth is the dents. So for example, here in this figure, as you can see, this one is the mandible is shown. Now if we remove this teeth, then as you can see, the empty portion, the empty part is visible. So these empty parts are known as the sockets. So in the sockets, the teeth are located. So this is the first point. Okay, now the teeth, all the teeth, they are considered as accessory digestive organ because our teeth enable us to chew the food. That's why. Now moving on the second point of our discussion. This is regarding the alveolar process. So first of all, I am showing you the alveolar bone. For example, this bone, this one is the alveolar bone, and this projection outside this part. So this is the alveolar process. So this is the alveolar bone and this is the process of alveolar bone. Now the alveolar process are covered by the gum or the gingivae. So how we are going to read this spelling? It is not gingiva, it is gingivae. Okay, and this gingivae or the gum extend slightly into the socket. For example, over here you can see this one is the alveolar process, this one is the alveolar process. Okay, and if we remove this entire teeth, okay, from its where it is located right now, if we remove this entire teeth, then the empty part, which one visible to us, that will be known as the socket. So this part, the empty part without the teeth, will be known as the socket. So as you can see, the interior border, for example this border and this border, so they are covered by this pink color portion, and this pink color portion is the gingivae or the gum. Okay, now what this gum is made up of? So as you can see over here, it is written the gingivae or the gums are the specialized regions of the oral mucosa, okay, and they surround the teeth and cover the adjacent regions of the alveolar bone. So in the figure I am showing you the gum, okay. For example, these are the teeth, and as you can see, this light pink color portion are the gingivae, and these are the gingivae of the maxillary teeth, okay. And over here, as you can see, the name written alveolar mucosa. So just beneath the alveolar mucosa, the alveolar bone is present. So this is regarding the second point, that the alveolar process, they are covered by gum, and this gum extends slightly into the socket. Now moving on the third point. So this is the third point of our discussion. So this is the socket. This part is the socket, okay. If the teeth, we can remove the teeth and we can observe the empty socket. So I have already shown you the socket, okay. Now this socket, they are lined by periodontal ligament or the membrane. So for example, here as you can see, the name is written and you follow this arrow. So these are the periodontal ligament. Now what this periodontal ligament composed of? So they are made up of dense fibrous connective tissue, and this ligament or this connective tissue or this membrane anchors the teeth in the socket, okay. So the function of the periodontal ligament is to anchor the teeth into the socket walls, and at the same time this ligament also act as the shock observer when we are chewing the food. So during the chewing process, the shocks are absorbed by the periodontal ligament. So this is regarding the periodontal ligament. Now moving on the fourth point of our discussion, the parts or the regions of typical. So the typical tooth has three major external regions. One is crown, second one is root, and third one is the neck. So in the figure I am showing you, as you can see, this part, okay, this is the crown, then this portion, this is the neck region, and the third, okay, so this part, okay, this part is the root. So the typical tooth has three major regions: crown, root, and neck. Now the crown is visible portion above the level of gum. For example, this one is the gum, okay, and this one is the gum. So above the gum, the crown is present, okay. So the crown is visible from outside, okay. Now these three region that is the crown, root, and the neck. Okay, these are the three regions of typical tooth. Now, in the socket of the tooth, one, two, or three roots are embedded. For example, here this one is the one root and this one is the other root. So here in this tooth, as we can see, two roots are visible, this one and this one. Okay, so some tooth are having one root, some tooth are having two root, and some tooth are having three root. So on my next lecture, next lecture, we will be discussing about the human dentition. So in that lecture we will learn that which are the teeth that are having one root and which are the teeth which they are having the two root, and which are the teeth which are having the three root. Okay, now the neck. So the neck is the constricted region between the crown and root. For example, this is the crown, this one is the root. So between crown and root, okay, this constricted, this part and this part, okay, so this part is known as the neck. So with this we have completed the fourth point of our discussion. Now moving on the fifth point of our discussion. Now internally, most of the or the majority of the part of our tooth is made up of dentine. For example, over here in the figure, as you can see, the yellow color, the camel yellow color which you are looking at is the dentine. So this is the dentine. Now what this dentine is made up of? So in the dentine, calcified connective tissue is there, and this calcified connective tissue is giving the basic shape to our tooth. So for the shape of our tooth, we can say the dentine is responsible, and at the same time dentine also provide the rigidity to our tooth. Now dentine is also harder than bone because it is having the higher content of calcium salt. So 70% of dry weight means if the weight of dentine is 100%, so in that 70% is the weight of calcium salt. So that is the meaning of this thing. Now moving on the sixth point of our discussion. Now the dentine of the crown is covered by enamel. For example, in this figure, this is the dentine of the crown, and this dentine of the crown is covered by enamel. So this white portion is the enamel. Now what this enamel is consist of? So enamel is primarily consist of calcium phosphate and calcium carbonate. Now enamel is also harder than bone, and the enamel is also having the higher content of calcium salt, that is about 95% of dry weight of the enamel, that calcium salt is present. So that is the meaning of this line. And this line, enamel is the hardest substance in our body. Now the function of enamel, so it serves as the protection for our tooth when we are chewing the food. So the wear and tear during chewing, so from the wear and tear, this enamel is protecting our teeth. Okay, then the enamel also provide us the protection against the acidic substances. Now let's say if the enamel is removed, then the dentine will be exposed, and if the dentine comes in the contact with the acidic substance, so it can be dissolved. So the enamel is actually protecting the dentine. Okay, so the sixth point is regarding the enamel. Okay, what the enamel is composed of and what is the function of enamel. Now moving on the seventh point of our discussion. Now the dentine of the root is covered by cementum. For example, this one is the dentine, and as you can see, cementum. So this dentine is covered by cementum. Now what is cementum? So cementum is another bone-like substance. And what is the role of cementum? So cementum attaches the root to the periodontal ligament. For example, this is the root. Okay, this one is the root, and this is the cementum. So cementum is attaching this root with this. So this is this light pink color. They are showing the periodontal ligament. So here it is clearly visible. This is the dentine, this is the cementum, and this is the periodontal ligament. So we can say between the dentine and the periodontal ligament of the root, the cementum is present, and cementum is the bone-like substance. Now moving on the eighth point of our discussion. Now the eighth point is like this. Now eighth point is regarding the pulp cavity. Okay, so for example, this part, this is the pulp cavity. This is the pulp cavity. Okay, and this pulp cavity is covered by dentine. Okay, now what is there in the pulp cavity? So in the pulp cavity, the pulp is present. For example, in this figure, it is clearly visible that this one is the pulp cavity, and as you can see with the red color, the pulp is shown. So we can say this is the dentine, and dentine is surrounding the pulp cavity. Now what is there in the pulp cavity? So in the pulp cavity, pulp is present. And what is pulp? So pulp is actually the connective tissue, and in this connective tissue, in this pulp, blood vessel, nerves and lymphatic vessels are present. So over here, as you can see, these are the blood vessel, nerves and lymphatic vessels which are present in the pulp. Now the last point of our discussion. Now the narrow extension of pulp cavity are called the root canal. For example, this one is the pulp cavity, and this is the narrow extension of the pulp cavity. So this narrow extension are known as the root canal. Okay. Now each root canal has an opening at its base. For example, this is the root canal, this one is the root canal, and at the base opening is present, and this opening is known as the apical foramina. Now from this, as you can see, from this apical foramina, as you can see, the blood vessel, then the lymphatic vessel, and also the nerves, they are entering into our tooth. Okay, so this apical foramina is the passage for blood vessel, nerves and lymphatic vessel inside our tooth. And the role of the blood vessel is to provide nourishment to the cells of our tooth. Then lymphatic vessel, they are protecting the tooth. And the nerves, they provide the sensation. Sensations means, let's say we are having the hot tea, or in the afternoon time we are having the cold cocoa. So this, with the help of this nerve which are present in our tooth, we can detect that the tea is hot or the cocoa is cold. So that is the meaning of the sensation. So with this, we have completed the discussion on structure of tooth. So in this lecture, as you have seen, that there are total 9 theory point, and I have tried to explain this theory point with the help of figure. I hope this presentation lecture is helpful in your studies, in your exam preparation. My name is Manish Kosti sir. I am from Ahmedabad, India. Bye bye. Namaste.